I was 35 when I heard my father's voice again. Not in a dream. Not in some whiskey-soaked memory. But real, warbled and small, buried under dust and decades. It came from a cassette tape I found in a cardboard box marked Smaz Stuff. That's where I found him. Tucked between a broken snow globe and a tangle of dead string lights. The label just said, Voicemail. 1997. In my mother's handwriting. The night I played it, I didn't mean to. I was half drunk, digging through the past like it owed me something. I pushed it into the old deck out of muscle memory. Play. Then, he spoke. Hey, it's me. I'm sorry. I didn't know who else to call. That's where the tape cut. That's all there was. But those 12 seconds, they were enough to shatter the silence he left behind. I didn't know what to do with it at first. With his voice. He'd been gone so long, I'd convinced myself he never really existed. Just some ghost that slipped out the front door one day and forgot to close it behind him. But that voice, it was real. Nervous. Human. And suddenly, I needed to know why he called. Where he went. And if he ever missed me. So I started digging. Not through boxes. Through memories. Through old photographs, dead towns, forgotten names. Looking for a man who left a message, but never said goodbye. There's this memory I go back to more than I should. I'm 6 years old, sitting cross-legged on our cracked vinyl kitchen floor, eating Cocoa Pebbles straight from the box. My dad is kneeling beside me, fixing the loose cabinet door under the sink. The whole room smells like WD-40 and powdered chocolate. He glances over and grins. You know, you're not supposed to eat 'em like that. I shrug, cereal dust on my chin. You're not supposed to swear when the hammer slips. He laughs, real and full, then flicks a spoonful of water at me from his coffee mug. I squeal. That moment right there? That's the part of him I kept. Because for a while, he was there. Like really there. Every Sunday morning, we made pancakes. He'd call it Dad's secret recipe. But it was just Bisquick and too much vanilla. I thought it was magic. He let me pour the syrup even though I always spilled it. He had this smell, like motor oil, cigarettes, and mint gum. It got into his jackets, his pillow, the hallway when he came home late. I used to press my nose into his shirts when they were in the laundry, just to feel close to him. He'd lift me onto his shoulders and stomp through the living room pretending to be a dinosaur. I'd scream-laugh while my mom yelled from the kitchen. Stop breaking the damn ceiling tiles! For a long time, I thought we were normal. But then, things changed. Not all at once. Slowly. Like a boat taking on water while you're still laughing at the view. First, he started missing things. Baseball games. Open house night. My 7th birthday party, he said the truck broke down. Then, the silence got louder. Mom started whispering into the phone at night. I could hear her crying through the bathroom door. He'd come home late, smelling more like bourbon than gum. When they fought, they didn't yell like TV parents. It was quiet, tight-lipped and venomous. Like two people trying to kill each other with sighs and slammed drawers. One night, I came downstairs because I couldn't sleep. He was sitting on the porch, alone, just staring at nothing. I asked, Are you okay? He didn't even look at me. Just said, Go back to bed, kiddo. The next morning, he was gone for 3 days. Mom said he was working late. I was 8 when he stopped saying goodnight. 9 when he stopped saying, I love you. And by the time I was 10, he'd become this blur. Still a presence. But not a father. And then, there was the last day. It was fall. I remember that because the leaves were on fire, orange and gold. He picked me up from school, first time in months. Said he wanted to hang out, just us. We drove out past the edge of town. Didn't say much. Just him, tapping the steering wheel, glancing in the rearview. He asked if I remembered the story of the boy and the starfish, how the boy throws them back into the ocean one by one. I nodded. he told me. Sometimes, saving just one is all you can do. I didn't understand what he meant. Still don't. We stopped at an old gas station. He bought me a root beer and a comic book. Sat on the hood of the truck, silent. Then he looked at me and said, "You know I love you, right?" I nodded. He nodded too. Like he was trying to convince himself. We drove home. That was the last time I saw him. He didn't come back. No goodbye. No note. Just a missing coat from the closet, and a drawer full of his things dumped on the bedroom floor. Mom didn't say much. Just, "He's gone." I waited by the window every night for weeks. Believed the phone would ring. Believed he'd come home with some stupid story and everything would go back to cereal on the floor and pancakes on Sundays. But the phone stayed silent. And the light from the porch never touched his shadow again. I grew up, but the silence grew with me. It got into my bones. My blood. I carried it through school, through heartbreak, through every job interview where I didn't believe I deserved to be chosen. I heard it in the voice of every coach, teacher, boss, wondering if maybe they'd leave too. He wasn't a ghost. He was a hole. A shape of absence that never stopped echoing. And yet, there I was, 35 years old, holding his voice in my hand. 12 seconds. A whisper of apology. A question mark disguised as a goodbye. And for the first time in decades, I didn't want to forget. I wanted to remember everything. Even the pain. The box wasn't even labeled right. It was buried behind a stack of fake Christmas trees and moth-eaten wrapping paper in my mother's attic. I found it after she passed. One of those solo sorting missions where everything smells like dust, loss, and the perfume she wore when she thought no one was watching. I didn't go up there looking for him. I went looking for an old angel ornament. That's what grief does, it makes you desperate for something to hold on to. Even if it's plastic and gold and missing a wing. But the box wasn't ornaments. It was a time capsule. Polaroids. Receipts. 2 ticket stubs from a Springsteen concert in '89. And tucked into a sandwich bag, yellowed with time, was that cassette tape. Voicemail. 1997. My mother's handwriting was careful. Almost reverent. Like she knew one day I'd need it. I held it in my palm like it was ticking. At first, I didn't want to play it. What if it was just a bud dial? What if it was nothing? But what if it wasn't? I found my old Walkman buried in a drawer, still dusty from high school. Popped in the tape. Hit play. "Hey, it's me. I'm sorry. I didn't know who else to call. Click. That was it. 12 seconds. No explanation. No follow-up. Just that rasp of his voice, older than I remembered, raw and tired. There was something in it. Something I couldn't name. I must have played it 30 times that night. Each time hoping it would end differently. That he'd say my name. That he'd finish the sentence. He never did. But something inside me shifted. That voice, that moment, it cracked open a door I'd boarded shut years ago. And once the wind came through, I couldn't close it again. I started small. An old address. A few yellowed letters with P.O. boxes I didn't recognize. One return address from Nevada. I ran the name through public records. Nothing. Just shadows. A friend of mine, a PI, ran a soft search. Said there were at least 7 men by that name who fit the general age. But none of them looked right. Then I tried social media. Message boards. Veteran groups. Nothing. But the more I looked, the more I found pieces. Not facts. Feelings. Scraps of the man I knew, scattered like breadcrumbs through time. There was a postcard in the box, unsigned, sent from a diner in El Paso. There was a torn photograph, my father holding a child that wasn't me. Maybe it was old. Maybe it wasn't. And then, there was the journal. It was wrapped in a flannel shirt I didn't recognize. Leather-bound. Smelled like old wood and stale smoke. Inside, notes. Sketches. Scribbles. Letters never sent. Most addressed simply. Kiddo. And God, reading them felt like drowning in memories that weren't mine. He wrote like someone who wanted to be found. But only after he was gone. Sometimes I see a boy on the street with your haircut. And I wonder what your laugh sounds like now. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I thought I'd already broken you. Maybe this tape finds you one day. Maybe it doesn't. Either way, I needed to say something. Even if it's too late. Too late. That was the phrase that stuck in my throat. Because maybe it was. Maybe he was dead. Or dying. Or just living out the rest of his days pretending I never existed. But if he left behind this tape, this journal, these breadcrumbs, wasn't that something? Not a map. But a trail. And I had to follow it. Because I wasn't just a boy waiting by the window anymore. I was a man holding the last words of a father I never got to know. And somewhere out there, in the dust and the silence, maybe he was still waiting too. So I packed a bag. Took a week off work. And I started driving. To the places he left behind. To the people who might have known him. To the corners of the world where his voice might still echo. To find the man who once left a message. And maybe, just maybe, was hoping I'd finally call back. There's something sacred about the road. Not the destination. Not even the journey. Just the movement. Forward. Away. The first few hours felt numb. Like the kind of silence you sit in after a funeral, when everyone's too tired to cry anymore. The tape sat on the passenger seat like a relic. I kept reaching for it, like it might tell me where to go. But it didn't. So I followed the only breadcrumb I had. El Paso. The postcard. Stop 1, the diner. It was still there. Bluebird Diner. Painted pink and sky blue, like a 1950s time capsule that forgot to rot. I asked about the postcard. Showed it to the waitress, older woman, gray roots, kind eyes. She stared at it a moment. You his boy? I nodded, slow. Her mouth pulled into a smile so sad it almost looked like love. He used to sit right there. She pointed to a cracked vinyl booth near the jukebox. Said his name was Mitch. Never gave a last. Carried a notebook and talked to himself. She paused. Tipped too much. Always ordered pie, even when he couldn't finish it. I asked if he ever mentioned me. She hesitated. Not directly. But he kept a photo in his wallet. Kid on a swing set. Curly hair. Said he had a son once. Said he messed it up. Stop 2, the motel. Motel 6. Somewhere outside Tucson. The front desk guy was maybe 20. Didn't care much until I slipped him a $50. He let me look through the old logbooks. There it was. Mitch K. Room 112. Stayed a few nights. Last time was 4 years ago. The room hadn't changed. Brown carpet. Burned curtain. Bible in the drawer. But it smelled like him. Not literally, but spiritually. That scent of unfinished business. Regret. A life on the run without anyone chasing. I sat on the bed and played the tape again. Hey, it's me. I didn't know who else to call. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe he did call someone else. Someone he trusted. Someone who wasn't me. Stop 3, the woman. Her name was Luann. She lived in a small adobe house outside Albuquerque. Found her through a trail of checks my mother had kept, child support payments that stopped in '98. They came from a shared bank account with her name on it. She opened the door slow. Eyes hard at first. Then softer. You're James, she said before I even introduced myself. She invited me in. Made tea. Sat with her knees close together, like she wasn't sure if she should be afraid of me or cry. I met your dad in 2000. He was a ghost by then. Carried a lot of guilt. Never talked much, unless he'd been drinking. She paused. He wanted to write you letters. Said he tried. But every time he put pen to paper he broke. Like he couldn't hold the weight of what he did. I asked if he ever mentioned my mom. She nodded. Said she deserved better. Said you did? Then she reached into a drawer and handed me a photo. It was him. Older. Beard gone gray. Holding a guitar. A dog curled at his feet. He looked peaceful. But also like he was waiting for something that never came. Stop for the hospital. I didn't expect to find a record that fast. But there it was. Mitch Kinsley. Admitted under alias. DNR signed. Deceased 2 years ago. They let me see his chart. No next of kin listed. No funeral arrangements. Just a discharge to a crematorium. The nurse who remembered him was quiet at first. Then she said, he talked about a boy. Said he had a son once. Said he hoped you'd turn out better than him. She gave me a small box. Inside was the journal. A guitar pick. A silver watch that didn't tick anymore. And a cassette. Blank label. Just a date, October 21st, 2005. If this ever finds you, I hope you know, I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I didn't know how to stay. I was afraid I'd ruin you. So I ruined myself instead. But I kept the swing set photo. Carried it everywhere. I never stopped being your dad. I just stopped knowing how to be. I sat in the parking lot for an hour. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just existed. All that time, I thought I was chasing a man. But I was really chasing the space he left behind. He never stopped thinking of me. He just didn't know how to come home. And maybe that's what fatherhood is sometimes. Not the pancakes or the bedtime stories. But the ache of wanting to be better, and falling short. I came home carrying his watch, his journal, and 2 tapes. I didn't have answers. But I had him. Not the man who left, but the man who tried, even if he failed. And somewhere in that failure, there was forgiveness. I didn't go to a grave. There wasn't one. Just a file that said, cremated. Unclaimed. A cardboard box with a number instead of a name. They gave it to me without asking questions. I drove out to the coast. The same one from an old photo in his journal. Waves crashing into rocks, a lighthouse in the distance. He wrote, if I go anywhere after this, let it be here. So I went. I parked the car and carried the box to the edge of the cliff. And I sat there with it. For hours. Didn't talk. Didn't cry. Just listened. To the wind. To the weight in my chest. To the silence that had once defined him. Then I took out the tape. October 21st, 2005. His final words. I didn't hit play right away. I needed to speak first. So I did. I waited for you. Every night, for weeks after you left. I sat by the window and told myself you got lost. That you'd find your way back. That you were just figuring stuff out. But years passed, and all I had was your shadow. Your absence raised me more than you ever did. I needed you. I needed someone to say I mattered. That I wasn't just a mistake you left behind like a tool you never learned to use. And when I found your voice. God, Dad. When I heard you again. I hated how much it still meant. I don't know if you loved me. I think you did. But I also think you didn't know how to survive that kind of love. And you know what hurts the most? I look like you. I laugh like you. I even disappear sometimes when people get too close. But I don't want to be a ghost. I want to be better. If you're hearing this, then I guess I'm gone. I want you to know. I tried. I really did. Every day, I told myself I'd call. That I'd fix it. But I'd wake up with your name in my throat and go to sleep with it stuck behind my teeth. You were the best thing I ever did. And the one I ran from the hardest. I never got to see the man you became. But I bet you're strong. Stronger than me. I love you, James. I've always loved you. And I hope, one day, you'll let me go. I sat there until the sun went down. Then I opened the box. The ashes were gray, fine, light enough to float. I poured them out into the wind. Watched as the last pieces of my father danced over the sea. Not like a funeral. Like a release. I didn't get closure. Not the kind you read about in books. But I got something else. A goodbye. Even if it came 25 years late. Even if it was whispered on a broken tape. It was still a goodbye. I came back to my apartment the next day. Same creaky floorboards. Same crooked blinds. But something had shifted. Not in the room. In me. I used to think closure meant finding all the answers. Solving the puzzle. Knowing why. But sometimes closure is just accepting that you'll never know. I'll never know why he left that night. Why he didn't call. Why he stayed away. And maybe that's okay. I've been carrying his journal with me. Sometimes I read it in the mornings with coffee. Sometimes I don't. But it's there. Like a scar that doesn't ache anymore, just reminds you where you've been. The photo he kept? The swing set? I framed it. Not because I want to hold on to the pain. But because for the first time, I believe he really did love me. He just didn't know how to carry that love without dropping it. And I'm learning. Some people can't stay. Not because they don't care. But because they were never taught how. I used to wonder what kind of man I'd be if he had stayed. But now, I wonder what kind of man I can become because he didn't. I'm learning how to say, I love you, without choking on it. How to stay in the room when things get hard. How to be the kind of father he never got to be. I'm not there yet. But I'm trying. And that's enough for now. Last week, I bought a new cassette tape. Blank. Clean. I don't know who it's for yet. Maybe a child I haven't met. Maybe just a version of myself I'll need to hear someday. But I recorded something on it. Just 12 seconds. Hey, it's me. I'm here. I'm trying. I love you. That's how this story ends. Not with a knock at the door. Not with some big, cinematic reunion. But with a voice. Soft. Human. Finally heard. And for the first time in my life. The silence doesn't scare me anymore. End of the last voicemail.